Hare Krishna. I guess you can check your phone. Thank you all for being here. Yeah, where would you like it? I guess you've heard that we're combining classes today. I give a Monday, Wednesday, and Friday Bhagavatam class at this time. So you're all part of the class. And we're on second canto, chapter 10, text 10, I think. Yeah, text 10, for those who want to look it up on their phones. Oh, no, we don't need that. Please. You'll freeze us out. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Pariprajaka Stotra Sri Srimad A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Sakaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gop Gopinath Sham Mukund Radha Kundagiri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Navadip Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Ki Jai. Gangamai Ki Jai. Jamunamai Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande.
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. It's Wednesday, September 2nd, 2021, and we're hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, second canto, from His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami. We're in the 10th chapter, and I believe tonight we're going to be starting with verse number 10. And as always, your participation makes things more interesting, so please do. And also, if you have a friend who you think might appreciate these Bhagavatam classes, please share the Zoom link with them. The more the merrier. Thank you, Maharaj. Are you in Columbus, Ohio?
Columbus, Ohio.
And it sounds like you have a very live audience there.
Yes, we do. Thank you very much, Kendra Prabhu. All right, let's jump in. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Purushondam Vinirbhidya Yadaso Sa Vinirgataha Atmano Yanaman Vichchan Aposrak Shuchi Shuchi. After separating the different universes, the gigantic universal form of the Lord, Mahavishnu, which came out of the causal ocean, the place of appearance for the first Purusha avatar, entered into each of the separate universes, desiring to lie on the created transcendental water, Garbhodaka. Om Jnana Timirandhasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurn Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhidstam Sthapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Tadhati Shapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Jatapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganathan Vitam Stam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savatutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kamshana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Prishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hori Priye Vansha Kolpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhobhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Let's just move this a little bit. You could, yeah. Good. That's good, right? Okay. Just a little catch up for you. In this portion of Srimad Bhagavatam, Srila Sukadeva Goswami has enumerated 10 items, and they divide into Ashraya Tattva and Ashrita Tattva. All the other items are dependent on this one item, the Summum Bonum, the personality of Godhead. So in a Mahapurana, there are these 10 topics, and they've just been discussed. And now the Sukadeva Goswami is specifically focusing on the personality of Godhead. So, purport. After analysis of the living entities and the Supreme Lord, Paramatma, the independent source of all other living beings, Srila Sukadeva Goswami is now presenting the prime necessity for devotional service to the Lord, which is the only occupational business of all living entities. The Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna, and all his plenary portions and extensions of plenary portions are non-different from one another, and thus the supreme independence is in each and every one of them. In order to prove this, Sukadeva Goswami, as promised to Maharaj Parikshit, describes herein the independence of the Purusha avatar, the personality of Godhead, even in the sphere of the material creation. Is my bag here? Not this one, the other one? Yeah, that's why we brought it. The Sukadeva Goswami has described these things. This question rather, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has pinpointed this question, and let me just see if I can find it quickly for you. Yes. Shukadev Goswami has promised, Prabhupada said, to speak about this, and the verse is given 2:946. Yad uttaham tvaya prishto vairajat purushadidam yatasi tad upakya. I will explain what you asked me concerning how the universe arose from the universal form. So, such activities of the Lord are also transcendental, and therefore they are also lila, or pastimes of the Absolute Lord. Now, we've heard a little bit about the independence of the personality of Godhead, starting from the first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. And in the previous verses, the ones that you've missed, those who are with me here, the Shukadev Goswami has analyzed carefully, Srila Prabhupada himself particularly has gone into this point, that everything in the material world involves interdependence. Your eyes don't work without the sun doesn't work without Suryadev. Everything's interdependent. But who made this system of interdependence? That has to be someone independent, and that's Krishna. So Shukadev Goswami wants to speak about this Shrishti Lila, Lila of creation, and such activities of the Lord are also transcendental, even though they involve the material creation, or even though they're focused on the material creation, they're still transcendental Lila. And therefore they are also, such pastimes of the Lord are very conducive to the hearers for self-realization in the field of devotional service. Good for us to hear these things. Some may argue, why not then relish the transcendental Leela of the Lord as exhibited in the land of Mathura and Vrindavan, which are sweeter than anything in the world? Why not just focus on Krishna Leela as found in Vrindavan? Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur replies that the pastimes of the Lord in Vrindavan are meant to be relished by advanced devotees of the Lord. Neophyte devotees will misunderstand such supreme transcendental activities of the Lord, and therefore the Lord's pastimes in the material sphere related to creation, maintenance, and destruction are verily relishable by the Prakrita Bhaktas, or mundane devotees of the Lord. As the yoga system, mainly based on bodily exercises, is meant for the person who is too much attached to the bodily conception of existence, similarly, the Lord's pastimes related to the creation and destruction of the material world are for those who are too materially attached. For such mundane creatures, the functions of the body and the functions of the cosmic world through physical laws in relationship with the Lord are also therefore included in understanding of the lawmaker, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the mundane functions, the functions of the universe and the functions of this body, or the activities of this body, matter to us a whole lot while we're here. Otherwise, why are we married? Why are we bringing up families? Why are we concerned with job and bank balance? Even as practicing devotees, brahmacharis, sannyasis, why are we concerned with so many things relating to this body? Why are we going for COVID-19 vaccines? Why are we self-isolating? We're very much concerned with this body. So, therefore, the topics of the Lord related to this body are not foreign topics, not extraneous, not needless topics. We're more concerned with the body than we like to admit. And therefore, hearing about the Lord's pastimes in relation to the elements of which the body is made is necessary for us. The body and the cosmic world, they're both made of the same stuff. They're both working according to the same laws. The scientists explain the material functions by so many technological terms of material law. But such blind scientists forget the lawmaker, all focused in on the laws and not much thought or attention or depth for where are these laws coming from. And Prabhupada made that point in previous verses. Everything's independent. Who's made this system of independence? Why should it be that way? Why can't everything just function independently? Why do we have to have eyes that depend on the sun? Why can't the eyes just do everything on their own? Conceivable. Why couldn't we have a system like that? But it's all set up. Everything depends on something else. In the background are the demigods. We don't see them, but we're dependent on them. And even if the materialist doesn't accept the existence of demigods, he still has to accept my vision is dependent on the sun, my hearing is dependent on the air. One should not be amazed by the mechanical arrangement of the complicated engine or dynamo. Amazed means, in this context, carried away with amazement. One should not be amazed by the mechanical arrangement of the complicated engine or dynamo, but one should praise the engineer who creates such a wonderful working machine. That is the difference between the devotee and the non-devotee. Devotees are always full with praising the Lord who directs the physical laws. The materialists are the opposite. Srila Prabhupada said they're prosaic, they're dull. They don't catch that behind all of these wonderful things, there must be a wonderful intelligence at work. They not only don't catch it, they don't want to catch it. Because of their background of impious activities and stubborn obstinacy, they don't want to hear about the personality of God. They want to dismiss the personality of God and misuse their scientific education for that purpose. Well, because of so we can dismiss that question, and we can consign people who want to raise it to the bin reserved for vitalists and the religious people who want to drag religion into science. And so we can dismiss them and get on with our work of focusing all of our attention on the laws of nature without considering adequately where these laws might come from. We dismiss that question, along with dismissing the vitalists and the religionists. We dismiss the most essential questions of scientific inquiry. In the Bhagavad Gita, the direction of the Lord upon the material nature is described as follows. Maya Yakshena Prakriti Suyate Sacharacharam Hetuna Nena Kaunteya Jagat Viparivartate. And here's Srila Prabhupada's translation of this verse, and I love to see these translations that are not just the cut and paste of the translations published in Bhagavad Gita as it is, but translations that offer a contextual unpacking of the verse. Quote, "The material nature, full of physical laws, is one of my different energies. Therefore, it is neither independent nor blind. Because I am transcendentally all-powerful, simply by my glancing over material nature, the physical laws of nature work so wonderfully. The actions and reactions of the physical laws work on that account. And thus the material world is created, maintained, and annihilated again and again. Mayadya kshena prakriti suyate satrachara hetunanena konteya jagat viparivartate." Men with a poor fund of knowledge, however, become astonished by studying the physical laws, both within the construction of the individual body and within the cosmic manifestation. And foolishly, they decry the existence of God, taking it for granted that the physical laws are independent, without any metaphysical control. Really stupid. There are regularities, laws that govern things, otherwise there'd be no science to talk about. Science has to deal with what's going to happen next, how do things work? And if they work differently every time, it's pointless. We want to discover the regularities, the laws, the systems in material nature. And we just assume that these laws are there, and we don't adequately give attention to this point. Why should there be laws? This is like kid stuff. You're driving down the street and you see traffic lights turning from red to green, and green to yellow, yellow to red. And a kid asks, why are the lights changing? What does it mean? Why does it happen that way? Anybody will want to know why. What does it mean? Why does it happen that way? And any intelligent child will want to know, well, how come they do that? Who makes them change, or why do they change? And finally you have to say, well, there's the traffic department in the background with men who make it happen. If you say, well, it just happens. Traffic lights are there, and that's what they do. What an insult to the transportation department. Traffic lights are just there. Bhagavad Gita replies to this foolishness in the following words. Avajananti mam mudha manishim tanamashritam padam pavam ajananto mama bhuta mahesharam. The foolish men, mudhas, do not know the personality of Godhead in his eternal form of bliss and knowledge. The foolish man thinks of the transcendental body of the Lord as something like his own, and therefore he cannot think of the unlimited controlling power of the Lord, who is not visible in the acting of the physical laws. The physical laws are working, but we don't see Krishna making them work, just as we don't see the transportation department present in the traffic lights. So Krishna is, what is that? He's not visible, and he's especially not visible to the fools. Sarvasya yoga maya samavita. Mudhoyam Nabhijan. So he's there, but he's not visible to anyone and everyone. The Lord is, however, visible to the naked eyes of the people in general when he descends by his own personal potency. Lord Krishna incarnated himself as he is and played very wonderful parts as the Lord himself. And the Bhagavad Gita concerns such wonderful actions and knowledge. Yet foolish men will not accept Lord Krishna as the Supreme Lord. Generally, they consider the infinitesimal and infinite features of the Lord. You know, the microbiologists and the cosmologists, the small and the great, atomic physics and cosmology. So they consider the infinitesimal and infinite features of the Lord because they themselves are unable to become either the infinitesimal or the infinite. But one should know that the infinite and infinitesimal sizes of the Lord are not his highest glories. Often it's given that, God is great. He's greater than the greatest, and so we think of him as being greater than the sky, greater than the mountains, greater. Or we think of God as being within everything, so he's very small. But the most wonderful manifestation of the Lord's power is exhibited when the infinite Lord becomes visible to our eyes as one of us. The Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, I believe, or it could be Bhaktivinoda Thakur, says that the greatness of Krishna is not that he's infinitely great or infinitesimally small, but that he's both at the same time. We can picture infinitely great, we can picture infinitely small. We can't quite latch onto it, but we get the idea of bigger, 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 smaller, 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 smaller. So we can at least conceptualize great and infinitely great, infinitesimally small, but both at the same time. So he's infinitely great and infinitely small at the same time, and yet he maintains his charming medium size. So that's Krishna. Yet his activities are different from those of the finite beings. Lifting a mountain at the age of 7 years and marrying 16,000 wives in the prime of his youth are some of the examples of his infinite energy. But the Mudhas, after seeing them or hearing about them, decry them as legendary and take the Lord as one of them. They cannot understand that the Lord Sri Krishna, although in the form of a human being by his own potency, is still the Supreme Lord with full potency as the Supreme Controller. They can't imagine. They think that having a form would make him limited. Being in a particular place like Vrindavan would make him limited. They can't understand that he can be within the universes, beyond all the universes, and still in Vrindavan. That's beyond their understanding because they don't param pavam janata. They're not familiar with how the transcendental energies of the world, of the Lord, work. They're busy studying the laws of nature, but there are other laws that are way beyond their ability to understand. Because it requires a different kind of qualification, which they don't have or even want to have. When, however, the Mudhas give submissive oral reception to the messages of the Lord in the Srimad Bhagavad Gita or the Srimad Bhagavatam, transmitted through the channel of disciplic succession, such Mudhas also become devotees of the Lord by the grace of his pure devotees. And for this reason only, in both the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam, the pastimes of the Lord in the material world are delineated for the benefit of those men with a poor fund of knowledge. So there's hope even for the mudhas. They're fools of the first order. But if they hear the message of Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam with something of an open mind, they can be purified and they can become, even become devotees of the Lord. Our Srila Prabhupada started the Bhaktivedanta Institute with that idea in mind, that the scientists are generally mudhas. They're simply concerned with matter. But all right, we have something to say about matter in relationship to the personality of Godhead. So let us then hold scientific conferences and publish scientific literature, so that by reading this literature, those with an interest in how the cosmic manifestation works, how matter works, what we can understand about the material laws of nature, can follow that interest to a higher level and finally reach the cause of all the causes, the personality of Godhead. So scientists or anyone who's simply focused on matter, and that's just about all of us in the material world, can be elevated by hearing about the material energy in relationship to Bhagavan, the personality of God. And therefore, the acharyas have told us that hearing about these activities of the Lord in relationship to the material energy is as beneficial or more beneficial for us than hearing about Krishna's transcendental activities in Vrindavan. Krishna's activities in Vrindavan will be a little difficult to understand. They're completely on the spiritual platform. But we can begin where we are. We can begin with the material energy and see the hand of Krishna in the material activities. So, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Srila Prabhupada, they're directing us to these topics. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is especially appreciated for his exceedingly relishable discussions of Krishna Lila in Vrindavan. And yet, he's advising us, don't jump there. Ignoring the activities of the Lord. Don't ignore the activities of the Lord in relationship to the material energy, because those activities are also transcendental. Those activities are also transcendental. And by understanding those activities first, then when we come to Vrindavan, we'll be able to appreciate Krishna's activities as they are. Not thinking, oh, this is some mythology, or thinking that Krishna's someone like us, gopis are someone like our wives or girlfriends. One will have a different understanding, in part because one understands the science more fully, and in part because one's heart has become purified by hearing these topics. And it's for these reasons that Sukadeva Goswami, with only 7 days left of the life of Maharaj Parikshit, doesn't say, okay, let's cut to the chase, let's jump to the 10th canto. Time's short. He begins with these other topics and gradually brings us to the 10th canto. So we should be attentive to this and patiently hear Srimad Bhagavatam in this way. We see that Srila Prabhupada, fully equipped to speak all about Krishna Lila and Vrindavan, mostly spoke about these topics. We don't see. I remember hearing, Nectar of Devotion had just been published. I remember hearing, now Srila Prabhupada is going to be sitting for the month of Kartik in Vrindavan at the Radha Damodar temple, and he's going to be talking about the Nectar of Devotion. So I thought, wow, we're really going to get into, I'd edited, helped edit Nectar of Devotion a little bit. I typed it and helped a little with the editing. Mostly typing, actually. And so I knew it was there, and I thought, whoa, this is going to be a whole different world. And Srila Prabhupada, as we heard from the tapes, he began from the very first verse and systematically spoke about the science of devotional service. He didn't jump right into Vrindavan and all those juicy, relishable, transcendental topics. Patiently making his way through the science of devotional service as enunciated by Srila Rupa Goswami. And I've heard other speakers, try to wow an audience by giving them the real juicy stuff. And the audience says, whoa, whoa, whoa. They love it, lap it up. And yet our acharyas don't take that approach. We see Srila Prabhupada. I remember in his last days in Vrindavan, not in Vrindavan, in Bombay, his last visit to Bombay, speaking on Srimad Bhagavatam, really his last public discourses on Bhagavatam. And in fact, it was second canto. Svavid varahostra karai samstuta purusha pashu. Men who are like hogs, dogs, camels, and asses. Glorified persons who have no attraction to hearing about Krishna. So he was speaking on these heavy topics. Not, this may be my last public appearance, and before I leave, let me talk about Ras Lila. Consistent. Not speaking to gratify the audience, but to enlighten those of us who've forgotten our eternal relationship with Krishna and need to be purified and gradually restored to our natural condition. So maybe I'll stop here and we can take questions both from those who are sitting in this physical room with me and those who are in the virtual room with us. Now, there are some chat box questions. Let's see what's going on there. Meena Dasi asks, is it that these scientists don't inquire about the lawmaker because they have an exploitive attitude? Service is not attractive to them. Yes, every conditioned soul has an exploitive attitude. It may not be that the scientists are, visibly out there trying to exploit, but every conditioned soul wants to enjoy it by taking advantage of the facilities of the material world. We want to, one way or another, enjoy. Who was I talking with the other day? Who was saying that scientists, with Madhupati, he was saying that, in our company, the business leaders are interested in the bottom line and all of that. And the researchers, they're interested in research. That's what presses their buttons, doing research and discovering things. They're not out there to do something that makes money, they just want to discover. Even that's a kind of sense gratification. I want to enjoy by doing research, by writing poetry, by creating beautiful art, by still, I have my own idea of independent enjoyment. So scientists also, and some of them are outright demonic. That's a different story. Some of them are outright demonic. And some of them may simply be bewildered in their own ways. Murari Gupta says, the hands of the Lord and the demigods are hidden from us except by hearing from an authority. And even then, there's nothing much to demonstrate their existence except reasonable thinking, yes. It makes preaching difficult because we are accused of faith, as if it were a weakness. Why does the Lord make it so? Well, for the benefit of those who want to forget him. If we want to remember Krishna, Krishna makes that possible. One just has to be willing to pursue reasonable thinking after hearing from authorities. But there's a sort of knee-jerk reaction. No, this is faith, this isn't science, this is vitalists, blah, blah, blah. And there's people who are really adamant about that. You can find them in there's a community of people whose religion is skepticism. And they have, the Skeptical Inquirer is one of their publications, and they have a Skeptics Dictionary, and a Skeptics this, and a Skeptics Conference, and a Skeptics. And really, when you read their stuff, they're not that as skeptical as they make themselves out to be, because they're not self-skeptical. They exhibit a curious reluctance to be skeptical about their own presumptions. They just, so anything that stands against their dogma, really, has to be immediately attacked with lots of rhetoric dripping with sarcasm about these foolish, benighted, faithful, religious people. Because they're of a demonic nature. Rakshasim asurim chaiva prakritim mohinim shrita. They're bewildered by the material nature. And therefore they pick up this religion, that there's no God, this is all foolishness, and science, that's where we have to go. And they thereby exclude the ultimate questions of science. Why are these laws working this way? What's behind them? Why is there matter? Why does matter work as it does? That they don't seem to want to discuss in a thoughtful way. They'll discuss it in a dismissive way, eager to exclude any personality, any God, any supreme being. So Krishna helps them. Yes, you want to forget me? We'll make it easy for you. Gurudas says, you mentioned that even fools and rascals can make advancement toward knowing the Lord if they do so with an open mind. I find this common expression, open mind, somewhat fascinating. If I'm approaching my opponent and say something like, you are too attached to material science or your sectarian religion, you need to see this sublime Vedic understanding with an open mind. What must be going through the other man's mind is, he wants me to accept the things he is saying. Then if I have an open mind, and if I don't accept his viewpoint, he accuses me of not seeing things with an open mind. My mind is closed toward his philosophy. Yeah, that is there. And sometimes we find that preaching is like that, that we just want to smash our opponents and don't want to listen to what they say. We don't want to listen to what they say. And therefore what we reply to them or what we tell them bounces off them because they see that he doesn't take me seriously. But therefore we see that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his approach to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he sat and listened for so many days. And then he answered. So even if we've heard it thousands of times, all right, let me hear. What is he saying? What is he thinking? What merit does it have? And where does it fall short? Yes, I'm still in an attached argument. I'm still not ready to say, okay, everything's open. I'm ready to become an atheist. Even if we say yes, but we're not really. But at least let's give credit where credit's due. Listen to their arguments. See what it is that he's saying. So that when we're speaking with him, he sees, yes, this person is understood. And you can go deeper in a discussion that way. We can go deeper in a discussion that way. The Rabindra Swarup Prabhu wrote his doctoral thesis on a philosopher known as Thomas, I believe, Hartshorn. And while the thesis was in its final stages, or perhaps completed, he sent a copy to Dr. Hartshorn. And Hartshorn wrote him back and said, essentially, I haven't finished reading your thesis, I've only read partway through it, but you're the first person who's actually understood what I'm saying. Rabindra Swarup had actually taken him on by reference to Achintya Bheda Bhed philosophy, and had taken apart a lot of his arguments, demolished, as we say, or attacked them. But the philosopher was so delighted, someone has taken me seriously. He'd been commented on before by people who were real eager to take him apart, but not so eager to understand in depth what he was saying. So when Rabindra Swarup actually understood what he was saying and took the care to go deep into it, then Hartshorn was impressed so much he said, I think I'll have to rethink some of what I've said. So Prabhupada said that, especially he was talking about speaking with students. He said that we have to be ready to listen to their arguments, even if they speak so much foolishness. He said they're a little puffed up, but they're entitled. So we should hear from them and then answer very carefully. Thank you, Gurudas. And I wonder what other questions we might have. Mataji, yes.
Thank you, Maharaj. So I had a question. So Srila Prabhupada said in the purport about why all these topics are mentioned. And
Prabhupada mentioned in the purport why all these topics are mentioned.
Yes, that neophyte devotees will misunderstand such supreme transcendental activities of the Lord, and therefore the Lord's pastimes in the material sphere related to creation, maintenance, and destruction are verily relishable by the prakrita or mundane devotees of the Lord. So using this word prakrita, it seems to raise a question of, so if after having gone through the complete Bhagavatam in sequence from beginning to end a number of times, one might then at some point start focusing on the particular parts that are to one's taste, which may or may not be in the Vrindavan, whatever is one's favorite.
Yeah. after reading through Srimad Bhagavatam a number of times, we might think that, all right, now let me concentrate on the parts that I'm attracted to.
Yes.
Whether it's Vrindavan Leela, Dwarka Leela, Mathura Leela, Vaikuntha Leela,
Lord Nrsimhadev, I mean,
Nrsimha Leela,
yeah.
let me hear that. Yes. And that's true. It's not that we're only allowed to read about the creative activities of the Purusha avatars. The other topics are discussed. And Prabhupada made a point of that also, that why only Vrindavan? Why not the activities of Prahlad, the activities of Dhruv Maharaj, the activities of Lord Ramchandra, the activities of Matsya Avatar, Kurma Avatar? Why only Vrindavan Leela, and why only Rasa Panchodhyay? And the answer, of course, is that, well, it's... You know, they're still thinking it's something like what we do here. So, yes, especially the experienced readers are invited to read again about Prahlad Maharaj. That was mentioned as, I believe, as some of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's favorite portions of Srimad Bhagavatam were Dhruva Charitra, Prahlad Charitra, activities of Prahlad Maharaj, Dhruva Maharaj. Not that Prabhupada said the pure devotees don't reject even a single drop of Srimad Bhagavatam. Not that we only read 10th canto, because anything else would sort of drag us down and reduce our chances of hitting the goal, hitting the target. No. And those who are truly advanced, yes, they can immerse themselves in 10th canto. And even among the devotees, yes, they're the ones that we can talk about these things with more freely, because they're more interested and more qualified to understand these things. For a general audience, we're quite particular. And for an audience of devotees, we may be a little more open. A little more open. But even with the devotee audience, we saw how Srila Prabhupada was quite intent on this point, that we have to purify our hearts by gradual understanding. And yet, he gave us Krishna book, and gave us Krishna book to distribute to the world, because it acts therapeutically when properly administered, as Prabhupada administers it with his summary study or with his purports. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. Yes?
Maharaj, I have one question.
Mm-hmm.
Our senses are limited.
Senses are limited.
Yes. Thought process is like incoherent, not that coherent. We are not in the absolute state for us.
Our thought processes are not coherent. We're not in the pure state.
Yes. And the state of mind is temporary. It changes.
And the state of mind is temporary and changing.
How do we know we are making the correct progress on that?
How do we know we're making the correct progress? Of course, the spiritual master is our guide. Sometimes Shukadev Goswami would chastise Parikshit Maharaj, that I've already told you this, why are you asking this question? And sometimes, Varyan Esha Tapers, oh, your questions are wonderful. So sometimes the spiritual master guides us. Yes, you're doing nicely. Or no, what is this nonsense? Or in the physical absence of the spiritual master, the advanced devotees, sadhus, they'll see, what is this nonsense? Or, oh, very good, Krishna is directing you. Or we can judge by Shastra. If I'm advanced, why am I feeling sex desire? Why can't I control my eating? Why am I reluctant to get up early in the morning? Why can't I stay away from the internet? Why, on and on and on. Or we can see from Shastra, though, I'm a little inclined to go on, join the kirtan parties. I'm enlivened by the association of the devotees. And we'll see. Prabhupada said, just like a person who's eating, you don't need a certificate. Yes, sir, you're now full. You're chanting Hare Krishna, you're feeling some happiness by chanting, you can see, yes, I'm making some progress. So these things, and also always keeping in mind the instructions of the spiritual master, and using that as our yardstick. Am I following what my spiritual master told me to do? Or am I neglecting or transgressing his instructions? If I'm neglecting or transgressing, then that's one thing, and if I'm following, that's another thing. Is that okay? Meena asks or says, why are so many juicy Vaishnava literatures? Who are the advanced devotees who might read these things? Yeah, we can ask ourselves that. Some of the Goswami literature, even the story is famous that Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur said that Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur could publish one book. Was it Krishna Karnamrita? I forget which book. He said, you can publish one copy. So there is literature that's highly advanced. Even I remember Srila B.R. Sridhar Maharaj, he told the summary of Ujjvala Nilamani by Srila Rupa Goswami, which is quite an advanced book. And after telling the summary, he said, at least so I've heard, I've not read the book. So your question is valid, Meena. Who are these books for? They're for the advanced devotees, certainly. These highly relishable literatures focusing on Krishna's internal activities are for the highly advanced devotees. And they'll relish these things. But we should be a little hesitant to count ourselves among those who are so qualified. Is that okay? Some other questions here? Yes.
There's one Nobel laureate, he says, Richard Feynman, he says, why nature is mathematical is a mystery.
Yeah, Richard Feynman? Yes. Feynman. Okay, Richard Feynman. He says why the laws of mathematics are...
Why nature is mathematical.
Why nature is mathematical is a mystery. Yeah. Generally, your higher level scientists, the so-called great scientists, concern themselves with these. They think about these things. They think about these things. And if they're more fortunate, they may connect it to the personality of Godhead. There are, contrary to what we sometimes suppose, there are scientists who are deeply convinced that behind the laws of nature is God, a personal God who's in charge of things. And there are scientists who, unfortunately, dominate science these days, who say that no, laws of nature are working independently. So, but a thoughtful person, even if he's among the mudhas in the scientific community, if he carefully hears these topics, can be elevated. And it's significant that Bhagavatam has so much to engage the scientific mind. It's not the pocket dictionary. It's the multi-volume full text in which there's the Sankhya philosophy That's enough to keep scientists going for a long, long time. Ideas of cosmology, just the very concept that time is moving in cycles and not, from the time of creation to the time of destruction and everything's over. But that there's a cyclical pattern to creation and destruction. That's, as far as I've seen, more attractive to modern scientific theory, and that's there in Bhagavatam. And much else. Much else. So Prabhupada wanted that scientifically inclined devotees, scientific-minded devotees, qualified devotee scientists, should present these things. This is another kind of preaching, to present the science of Krishna in terms of the language of our profession. So those who are medical men can present Krishna consciousness in medical contexts. Those who are physicists can present to physicists ideas of Krishna consciousness, and so on. Philosophers, artists, whatever. And use our talent, use our words, whatever jargon it might be, or whatever technical world it might come from. Use those words to glorify the personality of God, to engage the minds of others in understanding the science of Krishna. And we're running out of time here for, I'll explain in a second, but I'll just take another question from the chat box, or a comment from the chat box. Kendra Prabhu says, speaking of great scientists, Sariputta Prabhu once said that he accepted the conclusions of the Vedas because they explain so much that contemporary science has no idea about. And finally, Kajal sends me a direct message. Do I have copies of my book, Vanity Karma? If so, I would like to have a copy. They're available from Amazon.com. So you can look there, and thank you very much. So we're at 8 o'clock, and I'm going to stop here. Those that I'm sitting with, we can still take questions and so on, because there's no cutoff time. But we do try to end our Zoom meetings on the schedule. So, let's see. See, everyone's thankful that I end on time. Hare Krishna, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Gaur Premanande.
Wonderful. Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Okay, so I do have, now that I've let everyone go, and I do have time for more questions. You had a question?
It's just a follow-up with the previous one, what you're saying about, like when there is a need of identifying our sadhana progress.
A need for?
Need for the identifying our sadhana.
Identifying our sadhana progress.
You said like Guru can help it, or like senior Vaishnavas can help it.
Yes.
In case if there is not reachable of the Guru Maharaj, or there is no senior Vaishnavas in the community, so what is the best way we can handle?
What if there's no Guru or senior Vaishnavas to guide us in the community? Well, that's not a problem anymore.
For me,
there's Zoom, there's Signal, there's WhatsApp, there's Skype, there's Telegram, there's post, there's even postal mail. There's so many ways that we can seek guidance. There's telephone. There's so many ways to get guidance. In addition to which, the books of instruction are there. So Prabhupada said, in the absence of the physical absence of the spiritual master, we can remember his words of instruction, and we'll feel that he's present with us. We can be guided. It's not a limited thing, that unless he's on WhatsApp, Signal, Zoom, or Instagram, I can't associate with my spiritual master. If you remember his words of instruction, and he'll continue to instruct you forever. Something else? Yes.
Thank you, Maharaj, for this brilliant and thought-provoking talk. When you said that Krishna helps those who want to forget him, it got me thinking, as a seed-giving father or creator, does it not bother Krishna that people are forgetting him? Why does he make it easy for them?
Yayatamam prapadyante tam stataiva bhajanya. Why does Krishna, doesn't it bother Krishna that people want to forget him? Why doesn't he make it easy for them to be Krishna conscious? Yayatamam prapadyante. He responds to your independent desire. The sun would like to shine everywhere, but if you want to close your shutters and hide away, then the sun obliges. That all right, you be in the dark. That's up to you. Prabhupada gave the example of the palm. You turn it this way, it's in the light. You turn it that way, it's in the darkness. So it's up to us. Krishna doesn't force. No, you must love me. You want to forget me? All right. You won't be, but still, Sambhavami Yuge Yuge, he appears in age after age to try to give us direction. He sends avatars, sages, shastras. So it's not that he just says, all right. But still it's up to us. If our inclination is to forget him, then he assists. If you want to surrender to the material energy, prakriti mohinim shrita, then all right, be bewildered. It's up to us. That's our project here, to enjoy independently. So it's the minority, but the minority are allowed to pursue their preference, pursue their choice. Krishna's not happy about it, but reluctantly, all right. Prabhupada gives the example, a child wants to put his finger in the fan. Don't do that, you'll hurt yourself. And don't do that, you'll hurt yourself. All right, go ahead, do what you want. Ah! Learn the hard way. Is that okay?
So does he make it equally easy for those who want to remember him?
Yes.
Reciprocate.
Yeah, more easy. Prabhupada said you take one step toward Krishna, Krishna takes 10 steps toward you. A Jamil, indirectly chanting to indicate his son Narayan, and Narayan, Lord Narayan accepted, yes, he's chanting my holy name. So it makes it so much easier. Especially in Kali Yuga. Yadapnoti tadapnoti kalo sankirtakeshavu. Whatever you could get in previous ages by meditation for thousands of years, by huge sacrifices, by elaborate temple worship, you can have in Kali Yuga. Just chant Hare Krishna. You'll get all the same results. Yes.
So we give Krishna book to many people. Sometimes the first book is they read
Krishna book.
but it's an advanced topic, right?
Krishna book is advanced topic and we distribute it freely, but it's presented in such a way that people get the right idea. You know, Prabhupada, we're reading, my dear Lord, the gopis say, as you say in Bhagavad Gita. So Srila Prabhupada is incorporating the guidance for the reader, how to understand Krishna, not as an ordinary boyfriend, but as the personality of Godhead. So that even the ordinary person can benefit by these advanced topics.
Sometimes when you said that the cure for lust is to hear it.
Yes.
So how does that work?
One has to hear from the right person. These topics will cure the lusty desires, but they have to be heard from the right person. And finally, we have to take to the process. It's not that the process is just to hear Ras Leela again and again. But if by hearing Ras Leela we're attracted, all right, now you become a devotee, you follow these principles, you take up this chanting, you take initiation, you practice. He may be thinking, this is so nice, and by reading this I can go and join. Wow. But that's good. He's attracted. And now he finds out that it's not such a quick, easy thing. I have to follow some method. But because he's becoming purified, he agrees. All right, let me, after all, now he understands this is some very exalted thing. If I can achieve it by this method, then we fine.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for the wonderful talk. Based on Charita Manju's question, you were saying that Krishna reciprocates based on whether we want to be forgetful of him or whether we want to remember him. But it seems to me that he reciprocates, but then when we want to be forgetful of him, we're bound by the three modes of material nature, which Krishna says we're helplessly moving according to the three modes of material nature. But he's also saying, Maya Dyakshena Pratibhi, it's under my control. So this brings up the question of free will. On what free will do we have to act?
Tiny. Tiny free will. We don't have absolute freedom, unlimited freedom. When we're, as you say, like bound up by the laws of material nature, it doesn't give us a lot of wiggle room. We don't have the kind of freedom we imagine we have. It's a free world. I can do whatever I like. You're bound to your anger, your greed, your lust, your foolishness, your desire to be, what's the word, conformant with contemporary. What'll go over well with your contemporaries. 8,727,000 people are expressing their individuality by wearing torn jeans. But this much freedom we have, that we do have the freedom to turn toward Krishna or away from Krishna. Or even if we accept the directions of Shastra, those who are willing to follow some principles, varnashram, prescribed duties, gradually elevated because they're willing to accept authority. They can gradually be elevated from ignorance to passion, from passion to goodness. Slowly, 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 slowly. But better, the Sankirtan movement gives access, that you just directly jump into this kirtan and you'll come to a very advanced stage. Otherwise, all right, do some charity, do some austerity, do some sacrifice, follow some prescribed duties, observe some rules. You'll gradually advance. So that, again, we have no, or all right, that's up to you.
Sorry. there's a follow-up question again. We hear from the Bhagavatam like Sanketyam Parihasam va Stopam Prema Deva. So that verse says that any way you chant, you get benefited. But the person who takes sincere dedication under the bona fide spiritual master, take diksha and chants regularly, follow the four letter principles, and what kind of benefit this person gets and the other person gets.
Yeah, therefore imagine if even a person like a Jamil or a person who's chanting to indicate something else, or chanting as a joke, or chanting to indicate this or that, if even he gets such benefit, what benefit will one get by following the process? That's actually the point of the narration. That if even by accidentally or unintentionally following, one can get such great benefit, what benefit could one get by following the process strictly?
So sometimes in the high streets, while distributing the books, we'll ask them to chant, and they chant one time, Hare Krishna. So, and we said like you are like this, you will be liberated soon, something like that. I hear that it's also equal to liberation because he chants.
Swalpamapyasya dharmasya trayate mahato. If they chant once, now they can chant a second time. Whatever progress you've made is not lost, but you lie on the vidyata. And now that they've chanted, they've taken a book, they've given a contribution. Already they've associated with the devotee. Maybe they smiled at you, thought you, said thank you, whatever. This is all sukriti. And then if they go home and read the book, ooh. Yes.
Thank you, Maharaj, for the next. So, Maharaj, following up to the Chalta's question, so if we take the example of Ajamil, in which Ajamil didn't even want to remember Krishna, but somehow he was just saying the name of Krishna, but on the other hand, if you see the example of Bharat Maharaj, where he wanted to do the devotional service, but somehow he got distracted. In both the cases, the devotees wanted to do, but in both the cases are opposite, but in both the cases, Krishna didn't come like 10 steps, 10 steps further in both the cases.
No, Krishna benefited both of them. Bharat Maharaj, he was practicing and then he got distracted. Actually, the same thing happened to Ajamil. He was practicing, but he got distracted. And then Krishna showed that, yes, you may have been distracted, but due to your early practice, you've named your son Narayan, and see what the benefit will be. And Bharat Maharaj was also distracted, but your progress will not be lost. You'll come back as a deer, but you'll hang out with saintly persons, you'll always be attracted to associating with them, and next life you'll be aloof from all material interests, and then you'll go back to God. So, I think one pastime is indicating, see how easily, and the other, don't take it cheaply.
So, major stumbling block for scientists is to accept that there is a person behind this whole creation.
Yes, major problem for scientists is to accept there's a person behind it.
Because we think of a person as us, and also...
Well, that's one reason we think of a person as being a person like us. And another reason is, well, the cat's away, the mice will play. So the mice don't want to hear that there's a cat around. Or what is that proverb in Bangla? There's a proverb, Shakuni Shapa Goru Morena. Any Bengalis here? Anyway, the meaning is, the vulture is cursing the cow to die. For so many days, the vulture is circling around and he's not getting anything to eat. But he sees the cow there, well, die! But it's not that because the Shakuni is cursing, the cow has to die. But so the scientists are hungry for material enjoyment, and they want to enjoy without God. So they're cursing God. There's no God. Blah, blah, blah. Material nature is adequate to explain all the phenomena we observe, because they want to enjoy God's property as their own. That means impious. What's the difference? That you could be a scientist and appreciate God, just because of the background of Duskriti. They misuse their scientific knowledge. There's nothing in science that obliges you to be atheistic, to be demonic, but because of the background of impious activities and stubborn obstinacy, they take that path.
Sometimes they say there's intelligent design and all that, but they can't say that.
Sometimes they say there's intelligent design. Yeah, that's good.
Like this Richard who was saying that there is nothing. This person was
Yeah, this Feynman is saying that there's it's a mystery. At least he admits that it's something is mysterious here, why nature acts mathematically. So at least he goes that far. What other thoughts he had, I don't know. But at least he does go that far. Yes, Budgie.
Well, I just wanted to give one different example. So in the mid-90s, my sister and I were hearing on the radio one cosmologist was being interviewed.
One cosmologist was speaking on the radio.
Yes. And he was saying that whenever he tells his brother one of his new theories, his brother says, "Oh yes, that sounds just like Vedic text number 6." And then he says, "Okay, so this was in response to some question by the interviewer, which I don't exactly remember what the question was." And he said, "So yes, these kinds of understandings were there. We're just quantifying them differently." And so at that time, we didn't know who was the brother, but that was Yogeshwar Prabhu.
Oh,
Green is the brother.
Yeah.
And his brother Brian Green is a very famous.
Famous cosmologist.
Who is very, gives popular talks about.
Yeah. So there's room for discourse between the cosmologists and great scientists of the world and their brothers and other Krishna devotees. And even if they pick up something, it's to their benefit. Some may just think, oh, some interesting idea. That's also good for them. Or some of them may take it up heart and soul. Sadhapura Prabhu took it up heart and soul. Such great benefit. Thank you for that. Anything else? Okay.
Sometimes it is said through Sankhya also you can reach the same goal as
Sankhya is meant for reaching Krishna.
But how can you, because our senses are limited, so we cannot. Krishna
Sankhya philosophy means the philosophy taught by Lord Kapildev, analyzing the material world in relationship to Krishna. Sankhya doesn't mean atheistic Sankhya, taught by some impostor Kapildev. Sankhya is theistic. And Lord Kapildev in third canto, therefore it's in Bhagavatam. Lord Kapildev is teaching Sankhya philosophy. Bhagavatam has a lot to do with the principles of Sankhya. But it's not the atheistic Sankhya that just stops at the material elements. It's theistic, Vedantic. Shall we stop here? Okay. Thank you all very much. Hare Krishna, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai. Gaur Premanande.
Hare Krishna.
We can have kirtan now for 10 minutes. And
That's
then
what I was hoping.
Yeah.
We have a little time for kirtan. 10 minutes or so. Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Teresa Gopala Shri Vasari Gaur Bhakti Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopina Sham Radha Kundi Guru Bhanti Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Hare Dham Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Ki Jai Kandamani Ki Jai Kandamani Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Jai Samaveka Bhakti Ki Jai all glories to you, all glories to you, all glories to you, Gopinande.
Okay, Hare Krishna devotees, thank you so much for coming. Yeah, let's give a big Hari Bol to His Holiness Jayadvaita Maharaj. Hari Bol. Thank you so much, Maharaj, for coming and blessing us in our home in Columbus. We are very fortunate to have you. You are the first sannyasi guest that we have had in our home, so we are very feeling very blessed.
Sorry, couldn't do that.
And also thank you so much to all the Vaishnavas who have assembled here at such short notice. So the fun doesn't end here. Maharaj is here till Monday, and there will be programs going on, every day. Tomorrow there will be program at the temple, so please make sure you be there before 7.
Tomorrow is question answer. So you can ask any questions.
Any questions? Yeah, that's tomorrow. And Saturday morning we will have Skype program.
No, yeah, Zoom call.
Zoom call, and
then it's Saturday noon we will have welcoming of government entities at Urukurumanka in Mataji's home. And Sunday we have the Sunday feast talk, and then Sunday evening we have home program also. So it's a tight schedule.
yeah, this is something really important, because after so many, it feels like ages, but it's been almost 2 years that we have had such amazing guest among us, and let's take full advantage, and let's promise to attend all the sessions. And also we'll have a prasadam now, so you can have prayers.
Mahaprasade Govinde,
Mahaprasade Govinde,
Nama Brahmane Vaishnave,
Nama Brahmane Vaishnave,
Punyavatan Rajan,
Punyavatan Rajan,
Vishwasameva
Vishwasameva
Sharira Vidyajam,
Sharira Vidyajam,
almond milk. It's hot. I wanted to make some sweet. Sugar or gur or
Honey.
honey.
Or if you, it's almond milk, we could take it salt.
Yeah.